Hi, Steve.
Hi.
How are
How's
you?
it going?
I'm good.
Oh,
yeah? have you been, well, hold on. First, before we go on anything, we're the Gore Club podcast.
What the fuck is going on?
Welcome to the Gore Club podcast, everybody. I'm Steve Vessell.
Deathmetal Dave.
I'm Ace.
Okay, what were you going to say?
I was going to say that we've all been stuck in our houses for the last week, almost like we have cabin fever.
Cabin fever. I had to get out, man.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you had to. So this week's episode, we're going to talk about the 2002 classic and kickoff point for Eli Roth.
Yeah. Eli, the Earl of Roth.
Yeah, the guy that always plays a douchebag, and he's not a good actor, so he probably really is a douchebag.
Oh, man, I hope not. Every interview I've seen of him, it's pretty fucking great.
I feel like he's like that Quentin Tarantino where he's like, he just comes across as all he's ever done is watch movies his entire life. And so like when he talks about it, he's just like, let me tell you something else, man. And he's just like, and like never stops talking about it. And you're like, he's like the guy you would run into at a party. And he's like, he was okay, but like all he talked about was this movie I'd never heard of for like 20 minutes.
That's me.
That's probably right. But,
that's me at every party in the 90s.
But he doesn't have just all feet in his movies.
Yeah, no feet.
Oh, God.
Just his one eyebrow.
Yeah. But speaking of, I've got to talk about this for a second.
Okay, before we get into this.
So I watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, finally.
Oh, man, I love
It's
it.
amazing.
It is. And then somebody pointed out that this was the first movie that Tarantino did that wasn't backed by Weinsteins.
Yeah.
The Weinsteins. And I've noticed in this one, they show more feet than any other film. Is it fucked up to think that the Weinsteins were sending them like notes like, hey, man, cut the feet shit out? Because as soon as it was pointed out to me, I'm like, God damn, you can see her feet in this one. Her feet are just fucking full frame in this one.
Oh, yeah, the movie theater. It's just like
it's just
feet.
like he just went off the rails.
He didn't have the feet police by the fucking assholes.
Yeah, it was, so he made it with different people, and they were just like, do whatever you want. You're Quentin Tarantino. And he's like, yes, my time is now.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Feet everywhere.
I told Steve before we started that I started reading the book he wrote he wrote a whole novelization of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and like it goes into so much crazy detail about every character and everybody in the movie. Like there's a whole chapter about how they got the pit bull, Brad Pitt's character, and like how he got that, and then there's the whole backstory of him in World War II and his wife, and like it just like so much. Like if he had made the movie like the book, it would have to be like a 10-part miniseries.
Put it on Netflix.
I would watch that.
Yeah,
I would watch that.
It's really good. He's a good writer.
But I finally saw it, so I was pretty happy.
What did you think?
That.
Like, did you love it?
Yeah, I thought it was a good movie.
Yeah, man.
I thought it was fun.
I love that ending.
The ending was great. It fucking takes you for a turn, man. I was like, well, this is going to be depressing. Oh, wait.
No.
It's awesome.
Much like Inglourious Bastards with an E.
Yeah, I love it, dude. Whenever he walks in, he's like, what was your name? Something about some devil shit or something. He's like,
it's exactly what I'd imagine if you walk into somebody's house in like fucking Hazard, Kentucky. This is happening to you.
Yeah.
Well, we're thinking about doing an episode on true crime movies based on true crime events, and we'll definitely have to at least touch upon that. It's not really a horror film, but when we're going to get into that genre, true crime horror films, it's more like exploitation movies. So we have to talk about that movie.
Oh, we will.
Yeah,
we will.
And that fucking epic ending.
It was very unexpected. Caught me out of left field, and I was like, oh man, this is awesome.
Yeah, but let's dig into Eli Roth.
Eli Roth,
Director, writer, producer, actor, Eli Roth.
The guy that got his start with Cabin Fever and then was just like, hey, I want to make torture porn. Let's do it.
Jesus Christ, Dave. Born in 1972 in, Newton, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Did he grow up rich? I think so.
Yeah, Dr. Dad.
Dr. Dad, a psychoanalyst, psychiatrist at Harvard University.
Was that his real name? Dr. Dad?
Dr. Dad. Dr. Daddy.
It's Sheldon Roth, and his mother, Cora, was a painter. So, and not the house kind. So yeah, he had opportunities already that I sure as fuck would never have.
Yeah, I've heard him. He was on one of the Joe Bobs, and I just listened to him.
Sorry, that just sounded great.
One of the Joe Bobs.
One of the Joe Bobs.
He was on one of those episodes, and just listen to him talk about his childhood. You're like, God, you had the greatest childhood I could have ever imagined my entire life. Like he goes, at his bar mitzvah for all of his friends, he played the movie Mother's Day. Like somebody gave it to him. He was like, I have to watch this movie. So he played that as bar mitzvah for all these people. That's not, if you've never seen Mother's Day, that's not just like hey, let's all get together and watch Mother's Day.
The original is tough.
It's not like Evil Dead 2 where it's like, this is fun.
Oh, man.
It's a rough watch.
I showed that years ago to a really hungry crowd, and then I was like, oh, this is way more rapey than I remember it being. I was like, shit.
Yeah.
It's a downer movie, man.
It is.
Yeah. But it's really good.
Yeah.
And
If you love exploitation movies.
Now you're a man. Let's watch this movie.
Yeah, no shit.
Oh my God. So let's see. I've got Adam and Gabriel are his brothers, and they made so many short films. I think it was like into the hundreds, and they made them all the way up through college. Let's see. He went to Tisch School of the Arts in New York University, founded in 1965.
Yeah, he made that. He made those little shorts called Chowder Heads that played in between.
I was going to ask if you knew about those.
Nitro, like the WCW shows.
I could never find. I can't find anything on those. Like, not visually at least. Like I can find information, but I wanted to watch one.
Oh, well, I think that's a different. The DVD has
the Rotten Fruit.
That's the Rotten Fruit.
That's what it is.
Yeah,
the Rotten Fruit. I was thinking that was on there,
which has nothing to do with the movie. And the first time I put in the DVD, I was just going through it, and I was like, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah, I was real confused about that too. The first time I put that in, I was like, "What the fuck is
claymation?"
This?
No, it's just weird. It's just like, well, this guy does a lot of drugs.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Let's see. He worked for Penthouse Magazine as an online operator, posing as a woman. I don't mean like posing, like, ooh, here's my flaps. I meant like, posing.
Just like,
don't look at me like
you
that.
mean like the operator, like
well, he was
1-900 numbers?
Yes.
I think it was online,
yeah.
and you could do like a cyber sex thing, and he was on the other end, like just typing back.
What are you wearing?
Like that kind of thing, which is kind of sad. Like
Katie's like,
I mean, I know, like you're talking like this was in the '90s, AOL chat rooms. Like he's
Alicia Roth.
The fact that you had to get onto a website and pay someone to have cyber sex is kind of sad. But
hey man, fuck you.
Well, maybe he just didn't have Yahoo Chat or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's where interns start.
Yeah,
the cyber sex department.
That's where you got to develop all those good writing skills.
Yeah, well, I mean, I suppose.
Yeah,
he is a good writer. I will get to like definitely some of his writing material and the things that he's put in these films that some people just kind of don't even talk about. But I noticed that kind of shit. Let's see. I also have him down as the Howard Stern's assistant on Private Parts.
Yeah, I saw that. I thought that was real interesting because I think that movie's universally panned, but I think it's hilarious.
I watched it. I can't remember why or how I watched it, but when I did, I was like, it's surprisingly really good.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Like, it's a good movie. It's not like it doesn't look bad. My stupid criteria of what I like about a movie is like it actually looks good. It's acted well. Like Howard Stern can act even though he's being himself. Like, how many people we've seen in the biopic? It's like, oh God, they should have cast somebody else as you.
Paul Giamatti and it's like WNBC.
WNBC. Jenna Jameson's the greatest. Jenna Jameson, I'm just saying.
Oh, yeah. I watched that scene many times when that movie came out.
But he wrote the spec script for Cabin Fever in 1996 while he was an intern, or not intern, while he was an assistant for Howard Stern during the Private Parts movie.
And it supposedly came from like a real experience. I read that he was like baling hay or something, and
he was in Iceland, I think, on like a horse farm or something, which just still speaks to his like. He's like, as you all do, when you're in your teenage years, go to Iceland and work on a horse farm.
He's got to earn his keep.
He says it so nonchalant and things like that's just something everybody does.
Some people go to Las Vegas. Some people go to Iceland and work with horses. Okay,
but he got a skin infection over there, and it kind of made him read about skin eating viruses, and it terrified him.
Yeah,
and the shaving thing that was apparently maybe it's more elaborated, but he said that's real.
Oh yeah, I think he was like shaving his face.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about all those kind of like little anecdotes as we go through the whiteboard of doom.
All right,
the whiteboard.
Let's just dive in. Where do we start, Steve?
Oh, I see. We've got Cabin Fever, 2002.
That's right.
How does all this start, by the way?
Dog.
No one knows. Dead dog.
It's a dead dog. And it's just like, it's a bullshit thing. Like, I'm going to put a dead dog and have this guy react. Oh, my God, my dog's dead.
Like first. He's trying to feed it.
Yeah, he's obviously fucking mental.
Well, it's like a dead animal, and he's just hitting it on its mouth. Like, hey, wake up, baby.
Wake up. And then like, oh, my God, your guts are on the floor.
He's trying to wake the baby up, and like you do, you hold a baby by its legs, and then it shits all over you.
Is that how you do with babies?
That's how I change a baby, man. You hold it by its legs, it shoot at you. I don't know why I'm acting like I don't know how to speak. Sorry, it shoot at you.
Anyways, so he finds the dog.
Sorry, Dave. Carry on.
No.
I'm holding you back.
He finds the dog, and immediately you get some gore because they're just like, fucking. Didn't he have like a dead rabbit or something in his hand?
That's
too?
what I'm saying. He's like touching the dog's muzzle with a dead rabbit, being like, "Hey, baby, wake up!
Yeah,
wake
he's
up!"
the town hermit.
He is the town hermit.
We learn his name later on, but yeah, he is the town hermit.
And then we get to immediately meet the students.
I said, meet the characters. They all suck.
This is why. This is what I was talking about when I was talking about the Evil Dead sequels. This movie, instead of just starting out you could have if this was the Evil Dead remake, it would have been this movie they started, and they would have been in the cabin already, and everybody would have been coughing up blood on each other. Like in this one, you actually get oh hey, here they are. You get to meet them. They're all friends. They're going to go on a little vacation for the weekend.
Well, that's the thing with Eli Roth movies that I've noticed that I don't like any of his characters. They all fucking suck.
It's not until Hostel 2 that I enjoyed the characters. Like I gave a shit if they died or not.
Yeah, because Hostel 1, you're just like,
oh man, those guys
kill
are
them all.
Now
Somebody give me a basset hound tattoo. I'll fucking kill him.
Now, I was going to say, this came out in 2002. These are college. I was a college student in 2002. That was my freshman year of college. And I can pretty much guarantee this is how everyone I went to college with acted like and talked like and even dressed like. Because even seeing the girls, how they dressed, got the super low-rise jeans on. You're like, oh, I remember that.
I remember that in college.
Yeah, I remember that was a thing.
Yeah, you sort of meet him, and it's like a Dawson's Creek moment, I guess. I don't know. It's like you're really confused about the movie you're watching because this music. Exactly. This is weird music. They're in a fucking car. As you're like, if he hadn't put the dead dog at the beginning of this movie, I probably would have turned it off by now because I wouldn't think it was a horror film.
See, Ace, it needs a little splash at the beginning, okay?
Yeah.
No,
I need that moment
just
at the beginning of the movie to where you meet everybody and say, hey, here we all are, and we're friends.
Well, James DeBello is Bert. Jordan Ladd kicks ass, by the way, is Karen. Serena Vincent is Marcy. Joey Kern is Jeff. Ari Vernine is the Hermit. And of course, Giuseppe, we'll talk about all those guys. And of course, Ryder fucking Strong.
Yeah. Boy Meets World.
Yeah.
The thirsty friend.
Katie had a great fucking thing about when he got cast. Or even you talked about it. It's like when you cast Ryder Strong, you don't hate him.
Yeah.
And he's a despicable piece of shit through this movie.
Yeah. But everybody automatically likes him.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, do you hate him?
Man, okay, we'll get to those scenes. Look, she just turned off her microphone.
You can tell me why you hate him later, Katie. That's
we'll
fine.
get to those.
I was watching it and be like, I get it.
But I think because he's such a likable character. I mean, we're not going to talk about the scenes now, but go ahead. I see.
I wanted to like him so much because, he's Sean from Boy Meets World. And so I'm liking him, and then he's doing these things that I can't like him anymore.
Yeah.
Well, we'll discuss that when we get to it, but I think you're wrong.
I love it that she's like, clip, I'm in, clip, I'm out. Katie has her moments.
Everybody in this movie I know the main cast I know from something. Like Jordan Ladd, she was also in Death Proof later on, but before this, she's probably most known for being Cheryl Ladd's daughter.
Oh, yeah.
She was in Club Dread. Serena Vincent, most notably, is the naked student Areola in Not Another Teen Movie.
Yeah, and that comes up in this movie because she didn't want to do some nude scenes, apparently.
Yeah, and she's actually, in that scene, she's parodying fucking American Pie.
Yeah.
Which James DeBello's in.
Yeah.
There you go.
James DeBello from Detroit Rock City.
I love that
dude.
dude.
He's Detroit. He plays a dumb friend bro dude in so many movies. I imagine just because he looks that way, that guy could not just not be in a movie and just be like, duh, bro, dude.
He has the perfect voice for it's like the character. Every time you hear his voice, that's definitely that character works.
Yeah,
he's a great actor. I think everybody in this movie actually is really good.
Yeah, they're all.
It's a great
cast.
All good actors, I think it's a good cast. Yeah,
one kid's from
characters though.
The blonde guy, he's from Super Troopers. That's what I know him from. He's the Schnozberries or whatever in that scene. It's like, you are freaking out.
But I mean, yeah, we we meet these amazing characters, and they show up at this kick-ass fucking store.
Yeah.
It's great.
And Dennis is there.
Dennis
Dennis is my favorite character in this movie.
What you should not ever do next to Dennis?
Don't sit next to him.
Don't fucking sit next to Dennis, man.
Like, first off, don't sit next to strange kids in
Yeah.
the middle of nowhere. Nothing good is going to come from that.
Fucking goddamn Bert.
And he just gets bitten.
Bert sits down next to Dennis, gets bitten automatically, and then Paul's just like, we're going to, in a lawsuit thing, it's like you automatically hate these characters.
Wait, was it Bert? Was it Paul? Paul gets bitten first.
No. Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First, it's Paul.
That's right.
And he's like, go back there and wash it off in the creek.
Yeah.
I mean, it's behind the store.
Yeah, behind the store, over a pile of fucking rusted I-beams.
Yeah.
You know, clean.
Drinkable. It's potable water.
And then they bring in real dogs, and they're
At this
like,
point, it's clean.
yeah. But the shopkeep, I had to look that guy up. His name is Robert Harris, Old Man Caldwell. Not much about him. I mean, he did some movies, but he started talking to him like, oh, this guy's sweet. He's talking about his bottles and what's the fox piss for? For foxes.
Oh, here we go.
And then he just drops the N-word casually. It's so like out of place because you're like, oh, it catches you off guard because like, oh, this sweet old man's talking about his Shirley Temple bottles and that poor soul. I had to take her in the back and give her a Coke.
Oh, I know. And she's like, what's the rifle for?
Oh yeah.
Oh, God, no.
In a more direct way, and you're just like, oh shit.
And it takes us right into number 2 here, the vocabulary of cabin fever.
They said some hard words in that movie.
And I think that he wrote that purposefully.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just much like Tarantino, he's got a lot of criticism about that kind of stuff. And it's like in the first 20 minutes, it's the N word, it's the G word, it's the F word, it's the R word. He hits them all.
Yeah, because 2002 college kids.
Yeah.
I talked about this a lot. I got a Stephen King book club that we're in, and there's always like a running
I'm not a
joke where you're
nerd, am I?
watched, or like every Stephen King story, it's like I think it's a lazy writing thing. Like it's like, hey, I need to set up that this guy is not a good person. What's the easiest way to do that? Just make him racist, say the N-word, and it's like I think it's just lazy writing when they do that,
Right.
Because you could go out of your way to set up how this guy would be a bad person or whatever, but you can just automatically go to that, and the audience would be like kind of taken back, and they're like, "Oh."
So
God.
you're saying The Stand could have been like 200 pages if Randall Flagg would have just come out and dropped the N-bomb.
Exactly.
Jesus Christ.
But it's Stephen King does it a lot in his stories where you have to like and a lot of the short stories too, where it's like, I need to make sure everybody in the audience knows that this guy sucks. Let's make him say something racist. And it's just like, I think it's always just kind of a lazy thing to do, which in this story, it comes back at the end and it's like,
Yeah, and the thing, I'm glad you brought up Stephen King because Stephen King likes to include very much like Lovecraft or whatever, these country bumpkin characters. So also they're trying to establish maybe that mentality.
Yeah,
Probably.
that too, yeah.
Probably.
It's like, oh, they're up in the mountains, so they don't understand.
And this store is like my hometown. We had this store, like the guy that worked there, and we had like all these people exist in the town I grew up in, and that store exists there. Like I went to so many places like this, and they had the old man who was just like, "Hey y'all, how you doing?" That Shirley Temple glass, like all that. That's all like it's all real. Like those people exist.
they like everybody in the town was really nice, and even Bert stole a Snickers bar, and they're like, "Hey, you shouldn't have stolen that Snickers bar." They were like, "Get out of here, you goddamn kids!" He talked to him like like a real person would from a shop like that.
Oh, absolutely, and it establishes him as a complete prick.
Yes,
and just like a selfish asshole. And then his friends were like, "What the fuck?" He's like, "What?"
What
We've all had that friend. Like, really, man?
yeah.
Really?
They get caught stealing, and you're like, God damn it! Now I feel like an asshole.
I've had friends like I'll bring a friend over to a friend's house and they are freaking thieves. I'm like, what? Can you put the stormtrooper back?
Oh yeah, I've been at a party.
It was not me.
I've been at a party where like somebody I used to hang out with, like the cops came and there was like a big scramble and everybody was leaving, and like we get back in the car and he's like, I stole a couple of these movies while I was in there in the midst of everything.
Oh my God.
I was like, you're a piece of shit. And that's why I have a copy of the movie Goodfellas to this day.
It's not somebody's junk.
Somebody
You got junk copy of VHS
He
junk
got a
copy.
stolen copy.
No, I meant like that's where you hid it by the junk.
Oh, it was. It was down the front of his pants.
Yeah, I went to a store one time, a grocery store, came out with a whole bunch of food. My friend opened up his shirt and just pulled out pizzas.
They're frozen.
What the hell, man?
You're like that guy in Street Trash when he's just putting the
Yes.
meat down his pants.
Yes. Oh, fuck, man. And then we move on to my favorite part of the movie, actually. It's the story time.
Story time.
Story time around the fire.
That's where he tells the. It's where Sean.
Yeah.
I'll keep calling him Sean. Tells the scary story from the deleted scene on Boy Meets World, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, story time, and we meet Grim and Dr. Mambo. But let's talk about the story time, because this reminds me so much of Friday the 13th. Part 2, the beginning. I mean, it's even filmed that way. It's great. I love that stuff.
Previously on Cabin Fever.
Yeah, and this is when Ryder Strong tells that kick-ass story about the bowling alley.
Yeah, which is a true story, apparently, that they based that on. So, yeah, the bowling alley story that Paul tells around the campfire is based on a real-life quadruple homicide that occurred in Boston in 1980, where a former employee, a guy named Brian Dyer, broke in and killed 4 employees of this bowling alley and bound their hands with handcuffs and a belt and bludgeoned them all with a bowling pin before shooting them all in the head. And then 3 of them died at the scene. 1 died at the hospital. He eventually got caught, obviously. I mean, how do you get away with that?
What year was it again?
1980.
No, yeah, you can get away with
And
that.
then they caught him. He got sentenced to 4 consecutive life terms, died in prison in 2011.
Oh, good for him. Fuck that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just like the story around the campfire. Very Friday the 13th, Steve.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I love that. And then, like, this is the scene that, like, one of his brothers, it looks just like Eli Roth.
Yeah. I always thought it was until recently. And I was like, he's like, that's my brother. And I was like, we all look exactly alike.
Yeah, I think it's Adam. I can't remember which one it is. He's got an
He's
older
even
brother.
a worse actor.
He just has to be the happy guy. He's the headless happy dude.
He's just like,
Just when
his
he's
head is in the ball return and he's
Yeah.
flipping around. It's so great.
Story time.
This is
meeting
also where we meet
Grim.
Grim and Dr. Mambo.
grim.
Yeah.
I thought this was the funniest thing when the first time I watched this movie. I thought this was hilarious when he shows up because he's like, yeah, what kind of doctor is he? He's like, yeah, he's a doctor of being a dog. Ooh, face. Yeah. Like I thought that was hilarious the first time I saw it.
It's very cringeworthy now, but
Yeah,
it
I
is
was
pretty
like
funny.
watching it. I'm like, yeah, that's not as funny as I remember.
And the whole time you're like, Dr. Mambo. Yeah, I wonder if he's gonna die.
What does what I had to write it down. What does scratch moded mean?
Scratch moded.
That's what he says
Is that what he
afterwards.
said? Yeah.
He's like, faced. Because you hear him breathing with that really bad soul patch that's hanging down below his chin.
Yeah, that soul
and he's
patch
like,
sucks.
scratch moded. And I was like, somebody at the table has to
I think
know
that's
what
like
that means.
X Games skater talk.
I like it that Katie and both Dave are clicking away. Please come up with something because I don't know what that means. Also, who wouldn't invite a friend over with a bag of weed like that? He
Yeah.
pulls out a fucking ounce, like a pound of weed.
The according to Reddit, it's when someone has been proven wrong or thoroughly insulted.
Scratch moded.
But it's literally only from Cabin Fever.
Yeah.
It's the only time it's ever been used.
That's cool. So he made up his own little like catchphrase.
We should
Made
bring it
up
back.
slang.
God, if I ever meet him, I'm gonna have him sign that.
That's awesome.
You write scratch moded on my copy of Cabin Fever.
Faced. Scratch moded.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love Dr. Mambo. You don't get to meet him very much because later on there's a whole story with the dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I love that goddamn dog.
Before we get too far, I didn't want to skip over the titular pegging scene where they're having
Oh,
sex.
yeah,
And she just like flips him over and he's like, oh, yes.
Yeah,
Which, I was like, is this the first mainstream movie to feature pegging in it?
Well, and that's great you brought that up because here you're sitting up by these characters and I don't know if like where they are like mentally, and obviously they're in college, but I love that scene. She's like, don't go to college. She's yelling at those little kids before they take off to the cabin. But, and they're all using these awful terms to describe anybody that's not,
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
Right.
Bert even says like, "I'm gonna go shoot the squirrels." Why? Because he says because they're gay, and he's like they're like, "Man, that's messed up," and he's like, "Well, I'd shoot them even if they weren't gay."
Right. So I like it because you're trying to figure out like where these people are on the level, and then you're like, well, maybe they're all just douchebags, and then he's getting pegged, and he's like loving it.
And he's
like
just loving it.
4
and you're
stars.
like, man, this guy is like.
And in 2002, not necessarily something you saw all the time.
If I was probably 18, I was like, man, that's something.
It's probably
I was probably like,
That's what they do in the city, huh?
That's what I was, in Lancaster, Kentucky, nobody was talking about this.
Thanks for bringing up the pegging scene.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Where were we? Let's get.
I don't know, man. I had story time around the fire, meeting Grim and Mambo.
Back to the cabin.
And then I've got number 4, back to the cabin. The hermit returns. And then kick his ass in the truck.
They handle this the complete wrong way.
You couldn't have handled this any worse.
Wait. Before we get there, why does he get an English accent all of a sudden? Hey, you shot me. I guess maybe it's Australian.
Yeah, because,
right?
Yeah, because Bert had shot him earlier because he thought he was a gopher.
So he turns Australian?
Yes.
Okay.
He's lost a lot of blood at this point. I think he's very sick from the fever.
I guess you lose some skin and you go, hey, you shot me.
They set his ass on fire.
They were trying to be nice. He wouldn't leave. It's time to gas the motherfucker.
It's the worst way to handle this. Like, even post-pandemic, you just set somebody on fire. Be like, oh shit. Could you imagine if people were this crazy during COVID? Like, you go out and cough and somebody just throw a Molotov cocktail at your ass.
Like, just sort of spraying you in the face with like bug spray.
Oh man, I love it. It
was the perfect storm of bad decisions.
Yeah.
And they just beat the living crap out of their own truck just to get him out.
And why was I would have never left that truck unlocked, but I guess they had the top down, but it's like just there's no good decisions are made. Like, this is a movie where it's kind of like you're already like the movie wasn't at a 0, it was kind of maybe like a 3, but they just go like all the way to 10, like right at this moment, and you're like, holy shit.
Yeah, I love that though. I love that it's time to crank it up.
Yeah,
it's time to get this this episode we're talking about. It's time to get the movie cranked up.
It really does, because this is the point
getting gross.
where it starts kicking off, and the next scene particular. Oh well, no, we got a few scenes before that.
Let's split up scene.
Let's split up.
Yeah, we have this. Let's split up because, like, okay, it doesn't make any fucking sense. Let's split up. So, like, that's a good idea when during a fucking I almost said pandemic. See where our brain is.
Well, they don't know anybody sick other than the poor guy they lit on fire, and he's been taken care of.
Yeah,
no more problems. They just got to figure out a way to get the car fixed. They got to figure out a way to get all the blood off. They've got to figure out a way to get out of town.
Yeah. So Bert and Jeff go one way.
Yes.
Serena Vincent's, I don't know why I keep calling her Serena Vincent, but she goes off another, I mean, that's her real name, but like, she goes off her own way. Like, she's just like, I'm going to go find some help while you guys are fucking around. So she goes her way, and then Ryder, I don't know why I keep calling him by their real name.
Paul.
Yeah.
Paul.
Sean.
Paul.
Sean.
Paul and Karen stay back because Karen's not feeling very well.
No, she's feeling a little,
she's under the weather.
Under the weather. So fucking Marcy goes and gets a boat.
Yeah,
and the two goons go off and they find
there's a woman slaughtering a pig.
Yeah, a woman slaughtering a pig, and she's very upset.
Yeah, if you've seen the pig, and that's just it. We don't know where this came from. So how far is it spread? Where is it going around? Is this pig infected? Because as soon as I saw this scene, I was like, oh, she's fucked too now.
Yeah.
Because she's splitting up this pig, and it's just orange and yellow, and it's not, that's not blood.
Can't eat the meat.
Yeah, can't eat the meat. She was very upset about that.
And then she's like, she knows the hermit guy, and they're like, this crazy guy was like beating. Yeah, we took care of him there. And she's like, oh, old, what's his name? Whatever. Like,
yeah.
And they're like,
couldn't be him.
Yeah.
They see the picture on the table. They're like, we gotta go.
Yeah, she's trying to help him. There's a chance there to be helped, and this film is like constant bad decisions.
Yeah.
And just around the corner, hope is right around the corner, and they just keep fucking it up.
Yeah. I mentioned that earlier when we were talking how it has the same kind of thing in Hostel, where it's like these group of people are out of their element, they're in this town, and every time they try to go get help from someone, either they fuck it up or it's like they just fuck it up all the time. Like, they're their own worst enemy, but like it's like everybody in the town is against them, and no matter how many times they try to like help themselves, like something gets messed up and they can't get out of the situation they're in, which I think is the truly terrifying thing, is where you're like in a world where everyone's against you and there's nothing you can do about it.
And you are actually helping them hate you.
Yeah.
Like, does that make sense? Like, no matter how the more I'm talking, the more I'm putting myself in a hole.
Yeah.
And that keeps happening, and that's terrifying. There's so many elements of this film that I love, and that I was just like, it just ups the tension and the terrors. Like, well, you're not gonna be able to go back to that house, and it keeps happening throughout the whole film.
Yeah.
And when I meant by the Texas Chainsaw Massacre homage scene is when she comes out of the canoe walks up on the island and goes towards the house. That is an exact homage to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I love that.
Shot for shot. It's the exact same shot from like the butt shot.
There are a few other shots in this film too.
Oh yeah,
I think we'll get to a few of those. So, look at that. We're Deputy Winston.
It's time to meet Winston.
Party man. I wouldn't trust this motherfucker. I'd ask him for his badge number and call it in. Like, who is this guy? He looks like he's 12. He can't even grow a real mustache.
Yeah, dude. As somebody with a mustache, I can say that that guy's mustache is very untrustworthy.
He's very much like I made a note for this because I had to, because I was like, every time I saw this movie, I thought of Sergeant Tyranny from Friday the 13th Part 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And he's also a cop in House 1 and 2. But it's this, like where he shows up at Friday the 13th, the camp, and he's Mr. Serious. Yeah. But he's a jerk, and he's on a motorbike. And then here, Winston is a complete douchebag on a little bicycle with a helmet. It's great.
Yeah, and he's just like...
that can't be a coincidence.
You guys partying?
Oh, God.
Go back in. Don't worry. You can go back in there and party.
He tries to be serious, and he says party 15 times. I looked it up.
Yeah. I think it doesn't show him riding the bike. Like, you see him, and then at the end, he's like, okay, and he like... hops on that bicycle, and you're just like, holy shit.
It's like he talks like an undercover cop that just doesn't realize he's still in his fucking uniform. Yeah. Like, hey, you kids want to party?
Yeah, dude. I think your body cam is still on, douchebag.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he's trying to be the cop from Friday the 13th, but then he rides off like Ralph from Friday the 13th.
With his little horn. It's great. God, like I said, he says party 15 times. He becomes such a creep. Like later on, oh my! It's like I keep wanting to go to these great scenes, but they're like further in the film. But I remember when, because when he's like, "Oh, you guys are out here partying, right?" And then Jordan Ladd comes out and he's like, "Hey, man, don't worry about it. Just go back inside, drink a big farty, drink a big 40, party, party hard,
just party, just keep partying." Yeah. It's like, I don't trust this dude. Now I'm really freaked out.
You know how to get a hold of me? And he's like, 911. You got it, man.
Yeah.
I was like, what? What the hell?
Dude,
I love this guy. They just found this dude. I don't know how. I think this is one of his only few acting roles.
I think he was in Detroit Rock City, right? Too.
Was he?
I think he might have been.
I don't know. Somebody needs to look that up.
He was. He tried out for a different role in the movie, and they were like, "You're not right for this role, but like you auditioned so well that we'll put you in another role. Like
right.
you're too just." There's something about you that is good that we want in this, and just weren't. I think it may have been for like Ryder Strong's role or something like that. And
right.
But he's.
Yeah, he was in Detroit Rock City.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So he's been in Never Been Kissed and Detroit Rock City and a few Pleasantville. He was in Pleasantville.
Was he?
Yeah.
I haven't seen that.
Giuseppe Andrews.
Man, I love that dude. He needs to be in more things, but I really haven't seen him in much.
Well, it looks like he apparently learned how to grow a mustache.
Dave's looking him up online.
I don't know. For a guy named Giuseppe, that mustache pretty much goes perfect.
Hey, man, I'm going to have a truck out here tomorrow, man, I promise. And never doesn't make it lift a finger.
Yeah. So it's a pretty accurate representation of police. It just doesn't do anything.
So the next thing is they decide to clean the truck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With what?
They're all fucked.
Yeah, like what do you like? You're at this cabin. What are you going to clean the truck with?
Where
like,
did they get a
toilet
this
paper?
cabin has a garden hose, some rubber gloves, and like a freaking nozzle. Like, who's out there watering plants?
Yeah.
And washing cars. That's
Nobody,
all you need this
apparently.
stuff for. They just happen to have this in the truck. I guess I'm just being a prick.
It just moves the story forward.
Sure
because
it does.
They can't leave with the car covered in blood, Steve. That would be crazy.
It would be nuts. And you know what's even better is like as he's misting all the blood all over everybody, and everything's great.
They don't know how infectious diseases work because it's 2002.
Jesus
it is 2023 and people still don't know how fucking infectious diseases work. Anyways, we get to my favorite scene. If you own the DVD used to have really fun names for each scene on there if you go through the scene. And this one was called Finger Bang Misfire.
Yeah. That's what I wrote down. Yeah.
And I remember the first time, because like I said, I used to be a nerd. I'd go through all the DVDs, look at the special features, look at some of the scene names, and I saw that and I was like, holy shit, this is going to be amazing. And it's exactly what it sounds like. I'm sure when they pitched it to the people making the DVD, they gave them the list. They were like, what the fuck? But it's a perfect description of what happens.
Yeah, I like to see that call sheet.
Yeah.
9 a.m.
Finger bang misfire.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, also, I put, is Paul a rapist? I think so.
I'm going to need Karen and Paul on the set.
Oh, wait, Katie, just grab your mic.
This is where Ryder Strong becomes not Sean Hunter for me in this film, and it's so disappointing. Granted, I know it's 2002, and so date rape is a new concept, but we don't
Holy shit.
we don't finger bang sleeping girls.
Yes.
We don't.
Yes.
I mean-
yes. Okay. I agree with you on that one. Yeah, that one's fucked up.
Yeah. I can't even make jokes about this because I think it's fucked up.
Well, like they set it up as like
Like I thought
she's telling him, like he's telling him the story. She's like, she's obviously
This is
telling him the
earlier in
story.
the movie,
Early in the movie, she sets up like, oh my God, my friend and this guy, he just like totally said, oh, I'm in love with you or whatever. And he's like, well, do you think that's weird?
Yeah, it's
and
setting
she's
up
like,
the whole discussion of friend zoning.
yeah, and he's
Which
just
is a good discussion.
yeah, and
actually.
she's basically trying to tell him like, I just want to be friends with you, and he's like, God, I'm so thirsty, I must have you. Like, it's just kind of sad. And then also there's all the stuff where they like make fun of him, like they don't want him to go with him in the woods because he's not tough like they are.
Yeah.
And
He's me.
yeah, it just
Well, without the rapist part.
yeah, but yeah, it's
Hey,
so it
I
sets
said
that up.
without that part, you fuckers. Jeez. Carry on, my good man.
But yeah, this she obviously doesn't want to think of him in a sexual way.
But see, even like DeBello's character, he's just like, yeah, but she knows she can control you, and you're in love with her. It's like this whole thing, and they kind of keep that going.
Yeah,
But then he's like, so are we dating? And then she cuts him off, and there's like all these little scenes that when leading up to this part, and he's like, no, I gotta go. He goes to stand up to leave, and she's like, no, come here. And she like pretty much forces him to cuddle on her, and they kind of fall asleep. And there's a whole scene. Katie, I would love to hear
so
your point
what
of view
exactly?
on this fucking scene.
Where exactly are you going with it? She made him stay in the bed with her.
Absolutely
She wanted to
not.
cuddle. So I know.
Yeah, you know that.
I know who you are. Yeah. But she really is setting him up as like, I just want to be friends. I just want to be friends. We can cuddle. You can cuddle with your friend. I think it's a little weird.
Yeah, this sucks.
Yeah. And so maybe it is mixed messages, but still the basics of
Motherfucker.
yeah,
Not what I'm saying.
do not
Yeah,
touch
exactly.
me. I'm asleep. Sean Hunter would never do this. He shielded a young girl from her abusive father in his trailer for days. And he would never condone this kind of behavior. I was disappointed.
Yeah, it reminds me of the scene from The Raft.
yeah.
From the Creep Show 2.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Where you think the guy's a nice dude, and all of a sudden she's asleep, and then he's like, dude, what are you doing? You're
Yeah.
taking off. Oh, fuck you. And I think that this automatically makes everybody in this movie suck. I was like, wow, okay. So
Well-
this is the guy I'm going to follow for the rest of the movie.
And we see there are other examnos further along in
We
this
will
movie
get to
of how
those,
this
yeah.
dude is a fucking creep.
Well, I mean, that's what happens when this boy meets world.
No.
So yeah, the whole point is what I'm trying to make is that he's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
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 And she was twice as out because she's fucking dying.
Right. Like, dude, what are you doing?
Because he got done taking his fingers out of her fucking leg. And was like, "Hey, everybody! I think something's wrong. I just had my half my fist in Karen's leg,
Oh yeah.
and it's looks pretty gross. Looks pretty gross. And everybody's like, "Oh shit!" And that's when Bert comes in. He's like, "Ah, fuck, just out of here! Get her out! Like, get back!" He's like holding his fucking luggage in front of him. Get back!
And that's a scene that comes up next. It's like Karen gets locked up. What would we do in these kind of situations?
We lock ourselves in the house. That's what we did a few years ago.
Yeah, but seriously, like it's something that's literally killing you much faster than COVID, and it's visually like it takes not even a day. But they don't know that yet. But we do. Like they're just gonna start falling apart. But here, like it's a virus. Like this is way before COVID, and you're right. Like obviously we're in the middle, and we think we know what we're doing, but people still got it. Still,
You panic and set a homeless man on fire.
the intensity level is way higher.
Yeah.
It is, because they keep turning it up higher. This fucking Bert is on coke or something. I don't know. He must have got some coke from that guy at the store. He drank some of that fox piss.
Once I saw the skin, if I saw somebody's skin and it's starting to look like that in that shorter period of time, I would just start walking. Like I'd be like, I'm walking to town. Y'all stay here.
Yeah.
I'll get somebody and try not to be an asshole in the process.
We are locked basically in the woods, and we have a cabin. We have a shed. We have a crazy dog, by the way. We haven't talked about that. Who comes back? Dr. Mambo comes back, and he's lost his shit. It is Macho Mambo,
Yeah.
correct?
Yes.
Yeah, it
Okay,
is.
that's what I thought. And because I always forget that the other dog is dead at the very beginning of the movie. But so what do? Like I know you said, like, oh, we lock ourselves up like during COVID, but that's just different. You can't lock yourselves up during COVID because you might get it. They don't know it's from water. They don't know where it's coming from. They don't know it's from licking somebody's, flaps.
I think this
say
movie
flaps
it does a good job of like letting you know, like it covers all of its bases on why this person shouldn't leave here, or why we can't stay here, or why the truck doesn't work, or like it covers all the bases. Like you can't just be like, I just said like, well, I would just start walking away, and you're like, oh yeah, that dog's running around out there that's going to
what
get
I
you.
meant.
And I was like,
It's not-
well, maybe I wouldn't then.
It's not easy, and there's only one rifle.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What would if there's four of us in this room, and then Katie comes down sick? Oh, here we go. She's got ideas.
You get one person to take the rifle, to leave, and go get help. Because then they have the rifle, they can kill the dog, which, normally I do not condone at all. But in this instance, Dr. Mambo has to die. But everybody else, actually, Bert does kind of make sense in just this one scene where he's like, Karen needs to get the fuck away from us.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's probably a good call. Would I lock her in a shed? Maybe not.
We'll just drag this mattress out here and just lay you in a shed.
Yeah, maybe just like her own bedroom. But no, then the others stay there. One or maybe two people go for help, and that's it. That solves it.
Right. And there's something we didn't bring up, which is towards the beginning of the movie, two of the characters are like, well, neither one of us, no, we're not going to drink beer. We're not going to drink water for the rest of the weekend. Now, if they had stuck to that, that would have been great.
Yeah.
But see, Karen wasn't a part of that, so she's drinking water the whole time.
Yes.
Many scenes of her just like, he's like, here, have some water, have some water, have some water.
That's why I brought bottled
there is
water.
a scene of when the hermit is rotting in the reservoir. So that's how we know that the water is infected. These little parts that we kind of glossed over, we didn't even talk about them. So when they're here, and like Marcy made, what did she make? Like stew or something? I can't remember. Maybe.
Oh, she made chili.
That's it. I was going to say goulash.
And then
but
she's
hey,
like,
it's just me.
she's like, I'll wash the bowls out. Don't worry,
Right. So we don't know. Where does my brain going at this point? Like,
Yeah.
am I Bert? Like, fuck all you guys, or am I Jeff later on? Like, no, everybody has to go. Stay away from me. I don't care who. It's too late, or is it too late? It drives me
absolutely
crazy.
at that time. At that point, it's already too late.
But we don't know that,
Well,
and it drives me crazy because I try to put myself in the characters when I'm watching them. I'm like, I don't know. I think I just shoot everybody. I have a rifle.
Well, they do make a
I love you,
decision.
Dave. They do what?
They do make a decision because Karen gets way sicker, and then the car starts.
All right.
Yeah, we're gonna definitely get to that part. It's called the car is fixed.
Yeah.
But before that,
Karen is locked up.
that's number 9. But number 8, it finishes up with Paul is a peeping Tom. Paul still sucks.
He's trying to go find more help.
Yeah.
Right or strong as Paul.
And he just stops. He's like, "Oh shit, titties."
Yeah. And that's where you get the psycho
Homage, yeah.
homage there, where he's like looking as the close up on his eyes. And honestly, the first time I watched this, I was like, why is this scene even in here? Like, what does this have to do with anything? And it's still, now as an adult, you're like, well, it's still setting up that, oh, like this guy could have helped him, but because he's a peeping Tom, he's like, get away from me. Don't you look at my wife. And I was like, oh, your wife? I thought that was your daughter. You're much too old to be married to this person.
She's way too hot for this fucking guy, but hey, whatever. Yeah, he's up. He's trying to find help. He walks up to this home, and there's a naked woman on the bed, and he's kind of leering at her. I'm like, I would probably stutter a little bit too, but he gets caught. And then he's fucked. And then there's one guy who probably has a phone. Obviously, he got candles. I know that.
Yeah.
He could have helped him.
They're trying to have a romantic night, and this fucking Ryder Strong is like this little creep with a butt cut's like staring in your window, like, ugh.
Did he catch him beforehand? Because he just shows up with a rifle. He's ready to go.
He saw it from inside.
Yeah.
Definitely. But
Paul sucks.
Paul does suck. He does suck. Sorry, Katie. I was wrong.
I told you, don't worry. There's other stuff. There's more evidence that Paul sucks. Just you wait.
Number 9, car's fixed.
Yay. Well, that's when you that's when they're like, "Oh my god, we can get out of here."
Yeah, I've got down Bert throws up blood, doesn't tell anybody. Karen bleeds all over everybody. Jeff leaves, Bert leaves to head to the store.
I definitely wouldn't have
That's all summed up
I
as
definitely
fuck.
wouldn't have
That's
put
a
Karen
summed
in the
up.
car.
Yeah.
I'd have been like, "Sorry, Karen."
When they go to pick her up, she is like the blanket is full of blood. And no. I love you, Katie. No.
No. And just leave you.
Have to leave you in that bedroom.
Yeah. I wouldn't have to worry about that. Rachel doesn't go outdoors, so I could just leave the house and just lock the door.
I mean, you put yourself in that position. Like if you saw me carrying Ace or Katie, and you're like, I'm not getting in that fucking Jeep, guys.
Yeah, probably
Be on a
not.
WebMD. You'd be like Googling, like, my skin is rotting off. What do I do? Like,
And that's what I like is this is before they're out in the mountains. Even if they had cell phones, they can't use them to look up what the fuck could possibly be happening.
yeah, really, in like 2002, I think that was the first time I ever got a cell phone was in 2002. So
Spoiled
it's
brat.
very.
I think I still had
I was the last one to get it. I was the last one of my friends to get a cell phone in 2002.
I think I still had a pager. I don't.
Oh my god!
I had the Nokia phone, and I guarantee that Nokia would have got a signal out there. You could, I would have dropped it in the lake I would have dropped it in the reservoir. That thing still would have worked.
It's analog. A T T T T. Just try to type out hello, Steve.
Yeah, but fucking
I'm
Bert,
dying.
Bert takes off. He's like, "Fuck all y'all, I'm going."
Well, Jeff does. Jeff gets a fucking thing of beer. He's like, no, y'all keep fucking touching her, and he stops. He stops Marcy. He's like, he goes off into the woods. He's got a 6-pack and a rag, and he's gone.
He's being
smart.
an asshole, but yeah,
the
he
smartest
has the
one
right
of the bunch.
idea.
And then Bert's just like, well, fuck it. The truck's going. You guys want to listen to you? Fuck you guys. But he's also, nobody knows, he's starting to rot.
Yeah, he's sick. He's spitting up blood, and they even said like, "Hey, you don't look good."
Yeah, I don't feel so hot. And
He
he's
doesn't
gone.
look good there. Like they obviously did some makeup on him, and you're like, oh shit, he does not look good.
He does not. That was a quick turn.
Dude, it was like they shows him drinking the water, and then like literally like the next morning he's already like skin rotten, coughing up blood. Like,
Yeah.
that's the fastest. Like it's like what 6 hours later maybe, and they're he's
If
like,
that, because we really
if
don't know
that.
what time of day
it's
it is.
nighttime, then it's daytime,
Yeah,
and
it
yeah,
could be
he's
6
already
a.m..
he's already dying.
And the next scene, I've got sex with friends.
Yeah, because Karen's getting sicker, Bert's sick, everyone's pissed off and leaving, and you know what Paul thinks? Now's the time to fuck.
Well, I mean, you know, I think they missed an opportunity for his dick to fall off.
I mean, technically, what is it?
So-
She's just like, she does the whole like falling out of an airplane scene, right?
Yeah,
And now it's time to get going.
it's supposed to set up how trauma bonds people. According to
What's your
Eli Roth.
opinions on this scene, Ace?
Watch it. First time I watched it, I was like, why are these people having sex right now? Like, what's wrong with you? And like, you're watching it again, and like, I listened to his commentary, and he was explaining
Eli
how
Roth's, yeah.
Eli Roth's,
Yeah.
and he was like, earlier in the movie, they're around the campfire, and he's telling the story about the bowling alley, and he's talking about, he's like, well, you know, trauma bonds people, and like, one of them say like, only if the trauma happens to you. So that's what sets that up later on. So the two of them are gone through trauma, and now they're both like have this romance for each other all of a sudden.
We're gonna bang, and
So
I'm
they're
gonna
gonna
wash
bang.
my dick off with Listerine.
It's kind of like how the guy in
I love that part.
It's kind of like how the guy in the Green Inferno, the Eli Roth movie, how he just starts jerking off in the jungle, and he's like, "This is a way to relieve stress."
I do it to take a nap, but hey, whatever works.
Yeah, man.
Spoiler alert.
It does come out of nowhere. This one is consensual, though.
Yeah, she's like, she lays him down, rides him. He looks like he's not having a blast, by the way, which is weird for pervert Paul, but whatever.
Yeah,
Well, we didn't see his dick. Maybe some skin came off.
Oh,
put the Listerine
I
on.
love how he runs his hands across her back, and that comes into play later on. And she's like, I'm healthy. And he's like, okay. And then they get done. And he runs into the bathroom and does the whole Listerine on the dick thing. And I don't know if I've never put Listerine on any part of my body besides my mouth. I don't know if it burns, but he's like, ah.
He's probably got an open wound on there now.
Yeah. Oh God, no! And I'd like to talk about Serena Vincent and her policy on nudity in this film. Have you all read any of those things?
Yeah.
It's interesting, and I like it because originally, from what I read, she didn't want to do a bunch of nudity in this film because she had just did what you talked about.
Yeah,
another
she was
teen
basically
movie.
naked the entire movie,
That's her
like
character.
every scene, so she was like, "I can't do this again."
Right, and she didn't want to.
Understandable.
So they had a rule. Her and Eli Roth apparently got into a heated conversation on set because it was one of those agreements in her contract, and then they get to the scene and it wasn't going to happen, and he was like, okay, so we'll show 1 inch of your ass. And he apparently actually got out of rule there. I mean, to be either maybe he was being a prick or he was actually being very specific. He'd be like, this is what we'll do. And they literally measured out 1 inch on her butt crack and then taped that blanket across her.
Yeah,
But later on, there's 2 more scenes in the film where you can see her breasts, and those were her decisions.
Yeah, I think
And
she
they didn't
said,
even call for it.
I think she said it was
More realistic.
more realistic. Like a woman wouldn't be like shaving her legs, just like completely like wrapped up in a towel or something in the bathtub or something. She's like, this is not how I would do it.
I also like it because she has more control. She felt maybe more control over the scene. She's like, now I'm consent. This is.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on this whole nudity thing, Katie?
I mean, obviously, I think it should always be the actor or the actress's decision. And the fact that Eli Roth did say, like, yeah, that's fine, we can do it this way, that probably gave her that comfort and that feeling of control to then be like, okay, well, now I will show my breasts because I'm making that choice. And I think in Not Another Teen Movie, it was just gratuitous boobs the whole time. And it really, like, yes, it was the character, but it didn't really add anything to always see her boobs.
It's like making fun of those movies at the time.
That's what you think.
Yeah. It's parody.
Yeah, I understand. I wanted your perception on that, your perspective.
Why, thank you. Yeah. It's good to have a little estrogen on the podcast.
I agree.
Indeed. So after we have done, so we have the sex with friends scene, and
now it's back to the store.
Pancakes.
Oh man,
what don't you do?
Go sit by Dennis. But this time he didn't sit by Dennis. Dennis was just like, pancakes.
They got a sign now.
Pancakes.
They did have a sign. They had a sign about finally because that was they mentioned that we didn't talk about that. It was like maybe you should have a sign.
Yeah,
and they did put a sign behind him, and
then he still gets up, starts doing karate.
Dude, like
slow mo.
I want to know,
taekwondo, technically.
Like when they were writing this, because like apparently it was sort of ad lib. The pancakes
that
thing.
That kid
was
just knew how to do that, and he was like, "We got to put this in the movie."
Yeah, we got to put this in the movie. Hey, do you want to kung fu some shit across the parking lot and bite this dude?
Yeah, like there's I think one of the features on there has him just doing like.
Yeah.
Taekwondo.
Matthew Helms is a black belt in Taekwondo.
Yeah. And they cut his hair like that too. He didn't have his hair wasn't like that. They just cut it.
He didn't have the John Michael Thor.
Oh my God!
It's like, so you're saying you just cut your hair all white trashy like that?
He has like the Bruce Dickinson mullet from 1986.
Yeah,
it's just these ridiculously straight fucking bangs and this long hair everywhere else. But they didn't. Yeah, apparently he saw Eli Roth saw Matthew Helm doing taekwondo on the set, and he was like, "We have to include that shit." So they did. And then if you look in the special features like you're talking about, there's a whole like special feature that just says pancakes. You hit it.
Yeah.
And it's the song Gay Bar.
Yeah.
It's the entire song, which is about this Gay Bar. It's so fucking great. And he is doing this bow staff because he's really good with the bow staff. Fucking taekwondo fucking scenario. It's amazing. So if you have the disc, if you have a physical copy of Cabin Fever, please watch that goddamn thing.
That kid's probably he's like 30 years old now.
It's fucking
like,
magic.
Probably still like
now he looks like John Milky Thor.
Yeah.
Doing taekwondo.
The father comes out, sees Bert. He's like, "You look sick."
Yeah.
And it's a very real scene because he's like, it's your problem if you're sick. It's my problem if my son's sick.
Yeah.
And if I get sick, that's another problem. And at this point, Bert's like, get the fuck out of here. Because, he's like, go fetch him. And he comes out with the fucking gun and the kit.
We have to get the
kit. Yeah, what does the kid have in it?
I can't stop laughing because I love that scene. It's nowhere. It comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
We'll need the kit.
Like they've just done this before. Like
it's like his older son is this big, huge mountain of a guy. He looks so sweet, by the way. And he's just like, we'll need the kit. He just walks inside and gets this little box. It's kind of like the briefcase in Pulp Fiction, but you never find out, do we?
No. It's like one of those things. Like, did they recognize like, oh shit, he's sick. This has happened before. We've got a kit to take care of this. Is that what it is?
I don't know.
It just has matches.
Where does the screwdriver come in? Is it in the kit? Maybe.
No, he just has that.
Okay, yeah. I don't remember if we ever find out what's in the kit. Maybe look that up for us, Katie, when you get a chance. Wow. The kit
just matches an old thing of gas.
Some keepsakes, some old buffalo nickel. Things you keep in a box.
And then we have where Ryder Strong finds the body.
This is another fucking bad decision. Like, hey, there's this body in the. Oh, I wonder if that's it. Like, look at it. There's fucking flies everywhere. It's half decomposed.
I gotta poke
was
it.
obviously on fire, so I'm gonna go poke it, and then he falls like right on top of it.
It's a straight up man thing. We got to put our things and stuff, and if I can't do that, I'm going to grab a stick and poke it.
I told Sam, like, this is the most unrealistic part of the movie for me. Where like, oh, this horrible shit has already happened to you throughout the entire movie, and then you just see like a dead body, and you're like, well, I gotta poke it. Like,
So let me
it's
set
like it's
this
going down
up.
this rickety ladder, and like,
Yeah, I was going to say, let me set this scene up real quick for people who don't understand what the hell we're talking about. When he comes upon this reservoir, and it's a pretty big, it obviously feeds the entire area.
Yeah.
The whole mountain.
Yeah.
And it's just nasty. It's algae and gross. And then you see this, we saw it slightly earlier, but now you get to really see he's just nothing but like bones and like bubbles and
Yeah.
gross stuff. And then he climbs down this shitty fucking ladder
just to fall in
with a stick.
with a
Oh
stick.
yeah, he pokes it.
Falls in and the body just falls to pieces, and now he's just covered in hermit spew.
Disgusting.
Fuck.
That's,
It's making me gay just thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, but that was another poor decision on his part. He does make bad decisions.
That maybe his poorest decision.
My notes were you deserve it. Yeah. You fucking fell in.
So going back to the kit, it says the contents of the kit remain a mystery to this day.
My theory is it's a cure for what's going on. That's what I think.
They got a vaccine in there.
They probably do. They've got some sort of like backwoods vaccine. Eat this mushroom, you're gonna be fine.
I'm all about that.
They got aloe vera.
It's good.
It's like your mom in the burn plant.
Yeah.
With some scotch tape.
Aloe vera, and Robitussin. That's in there.
Put some Windex on
Put
it.
some tussin on it.
Oh, God.
Oh man. So then we get to some more gross stuff.
Shaving the legs.
Yeah, that's a really cool scene, and that again, that's something that he said it happened to him. That he
Yeah.
was shaving and his piece of skin fell off.
This is the scene where, so this movie for me, this was like a word of mouth movie where everybody was talking like, I think this movie got popular because of word of mouth. Like people would watch it and be like, oh my God, you got to see this movie. So like everybody that told me about this movie was like, just wait till you get to the leg shaving scene. Like everybody was like, the leg shaving scene, it's disgusting. It's like Jaws except for leg shaving. It's like it did for shaving your legs what Jaws did for the ocean, you know.
I mean, that speaks a lot to this low budget film. It was only like $1.5 million.
Yes.
Yeah.
They got lucky because of his connections with David Lynch, and then he got Angela Badalamenti, who did like Twin Peaks scores to do like 3 songs, and then you've got K&B, who did all the effects for this movie. And there's not a whole lot of effects, but the ones that are like graphic,
They look good.
They look fucking great.
Yeah.
And this scene was part of that. But here's the weird thing. Apparently, the appliances got frozen in transit to the film set, so they couldn't use them. So they had to do a whole new appliance, and then the only way they could make it look as good as they needed to be is to cover them in shaving cream. So that really wasn't supposed to be this way.
Yeah.
So I think it worked out.
I think it did too. Also, they got the Peter Jackson bump on this too because he was a huge fan of this movie for obvious reasons.
I want to talk about that at the end, like
Yeah.
the reception of this film, like the whole bidding war and everything. You shave your legs, don't you, Katie?
I do. I
can see the microphone going towards your gullet.
I'm a woman that shaves her legs. And the weirdest part, I mean, obviously it's like the one scene, like I said, that everybody thinks about when they think of this movie. But what I found weird was like, if I nick around my ankle when I'm shaving, like that shit hurts immediately. She's just going back in and shaving just layers and layers of skin off and not reacting at all.
That's because all that skin is dead.
Yeah, she's
Her
crying.
legs are gone.
She's crying, but not in like a holy shit, this hurts kind of way.
I never thought about that.
No, but that's also like, that could also be like psychosis. Like at this point, like she realizes she is dying. She is going to fucking die. She saw Karen. She's done.
She's dealing with her trauma.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but okay, if you put those together, I never thought about like she's not responding, but then you're saying, no, it's just dead skin. She doesn't even feel it.
Yeah.
She's just peeling it off, and the sound design is just perfect.
Oh, yeah.
It just sounds, I don't know how to describe it. Like
Apparently, the sound guy that worked on the movie actually had like a flesh-eating virus and was in intensive care for like 11 weeks.
Yeah, he
or
almost
something
died.
like that. And he almost died.
Yeah.
And his quote about the movie was like, "Man, it looks real. That's what it looks like."
There was a guy I used to work with. He went on his honeymoon to like Hawaii and cut his foot. Got in the ocean, came back, foot was all like, oh, my foot hurts. Found out he had a flesh-eating bacteria that got into his open wound in the ocean. Fast forward, I saw a picture of it, and you could see, like, it went down to the bone. Like, you could see the bone on his foot. That's how bad it was. And I was just like, and it just made me think about this movie when I saw that picture.
And now you call him Peg Leg Jeff.
I was just like, well, hey, maybe you don't get in the ocean with a cut on your foot.
No, it's so funny how we all have a similar story. I was in Vieques on vacation at the beginning of the year, and one of my coworkers was with me, and he got a cut in one of the stores. It was like an ice maker, and he got into the ocean, and then both of his hands just got inflamed, and it was insane, and he had to get like some stuff happened to him. I can't remember what it's called. I think you knew what it was called, right? Something maybe your brother, it affected one of your brothers or something. Katie?
Oh no, that was my brother has an allergy to the ocean.
Well, that's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Sorry there, buddy.
Sorry, Michael.
Yeah, I'm allergic to 75% of the earth.
Back to something else because that's just dumb.
But imagine if he was allergic to pollen, too.
Yeah, I thought maybe that was connected, but that's crazy, man. I've never had an issue like that. I get ulcers.
That's all I'm going to think about now. If I go to anywhere near the ocean, I'll just be walking around like with like long sleeves on and gloves. Like I'm not going to scratch myself.
See, and similarly to that, I think every person that shaves their legs that has seen this movie thinks about this scene every time they just cut themselves a tiny bit shaving their legs. Yeah.
Appropriately. Get a staph infection. Lose your legs.
Jesus. And then Karen gets her face eaten off by Dr. Mambo.
But that is a very Evil Dead shot right there.
Yeah, well, I mean, the cabin's very Evil Dead. The set design, that's a real cabin, by the way, in a Boy Scout camp in North Carolina, I think.
Yeah.
But and they dressed it to make it look like Evil Dead and redid it. But yeah, Jesus, that whole part.
That scene, because you see like the Deadite vision coming.
Yeah, the Sam Raimi thing going. Yeah.
I just like to think that's how my dog always looks at me. He's just coming toward me.
So Dr. Mambo eats off of Karen's face and then goes after Marcy and just obliterates her because at this point, I guess, like you said, their skin is dead. Now it all makes sense because she's just like mush. He just rips her apart and there's like a leg over there and a foot over there.
Yeah. Also, it's a German Shepherd. Those dogs are powerful.
Yeah. I think that was a real police dog they used.
Okay, let's talk about the dog for a second because the whole second degree from Patrick Swayze thing.
Yeah.
Do y'all know the story of that?
I do not.
Ace?
They originally got a dog that was in the movie Black Dog.
His name is Jake.
With Patrick Swayze. Which if you haven't seen that movie, you got to watch it. It's
Meatloaf.
Amazing. Meatloaf, they're truck drivers.
Yeah.
It's good.
Meatloaf, the truck drivers. It's good.
If you're
I love it.
But he was in that movie, which that was like 95 something. So they're filming this in like 01.
Yeah.
The dog's a little old. They've hired it basically because
It's a pit
I want
bull.
the Swayze dog. I want it's a pit bull.
The original dog is a pit bull.
And it's a little too old, a little too slow, a little too nice.
He's so sweet.
It's like they're trying to film scenes with it, and it's just like licking their face and like can't get it to be mean. So they're like, let's get another dog.
If
and
you watch the deleted scenes, he's the cutest little fucker. He's
Oh,
just
yeah.
wagging his tail, attacking people.
He's having the best time. Like but
He's living
not
his
what you
best
want on a
life.
movie about a rabid dog.
Yeah. That's the difference between like my older pit bull who passed away and then the new one. Like the older one, you look at her and you're like, oh my God, this animal just wants to love me. And then you'd come in the house and she'd be like, oh my God, you're my best friend. Look at me, I'm a cow. And just
I
roll
loved
over.
her. I loved her.
R.I.P. Abby.
And that's right. And then the new one is just like he come in. He's like he still wants to be your friend. He's just very aggressive about it.
Dudley.
He's just like,
Dudley.
hey, let me show you my teeth. Don't they look great? And he hadn't killed anybody yet, so
He's a good boy.
He's a good boy.
Debatable. Anyways, Dr. Mambo. It would
So
have been.
they ended up getting a different dog for Dr. Mambo, and that is the vicious. They actually could not even shoot scenes with actors in the scene.
Yeah.
They could not.
That's why
you notice that you don't see
have
that.
the dog vision and you see the dog running, you see him running, but they're never in the same scene.
Because they could not film them together because the dog was so vicious. They went from fucking one side of the spectrum to the other side.
Yeah, I guess it was a police dog.
Yeah, there was a scene in the behind the scenes where the trainer's in there and he's got like the giant big thing on his arm or whatever, and like the dog attacks that and goes to the ground, and they're like, okay, cut, and they're like, are you okay?
The look on Eli Roth's face when he says cut, he's just like, Holy shit!
And he's like, I'm good.
Some people don't understand those 120 to 150 pound dogs. They're still fucking animals.
Oh my god!
If they want to fuck you up, they will. But enough about Dr. Mambo.
Yeah, he's the poor little doggy. You know, he has to. They don't show it, which is nice. They have to kill the dog. You hear the gunshot or whatever.
Yes.
And I'm glad they did that off screen because we saw that big Philly and that's the thing is I think they did the animal deaths in this film with a lot of respect. When you first see the first dog that's actually starts the whole movie, it looks like a big teddy bear. It's not very realistic. It's kind of puffy but realistic when it comes to like maybe being diseased. And then you see this dog and the death is off screen. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? The first dog that we see dead in like the first 5 minutes of the movie,
it does
his
look really bad.
Entire insides
But
are
he doesn't
missing.
look real.
He's got a point. It doesn't look
It
real.
doesn't, but still, like I made a note. This movie is no friend of the animals.
This movie's no friend
I like
of
it.
nobody.
Call me out. It's fine. I just, from my perspective, I never
No
thought
Dr.
about
Doolittle.
and I never thought they were being disrespectful or making me like emotionally like, oh fuck, I can't believe they. It's not like Halloween 1 where you see the dog go limp. That's all I was trying to say, Katie. Damn.
Yeah.
All right, enough about these dogs. Let's move on to the rednecks attacking because that's what's happening. Because we forgot to mention because after Bert leaves, they get the guns, man. The boys are out. They're going to the holler. They're going to get you.
That's what there's a lot of the actors they got.
Christ. They're gonna get you.
I think that a lot of those actors they got were just from North Carolina, and I think that's why it comes across. I think they come across as like actual like more realistic than say like a Rob Zombie redneck, where they're just like Rob Zombie's from Massachusetts, and he's like, "This is how I think rednecks are," and they're just like, "Fuck, fucking bitch."
Man.
You know?
I'm so glad you brought that up. I made a note about this. So in this film, there are just as many F-bombs as in any Rob Zombie film, but we don't seem to talk about it. Nobody really points it out in his film at all. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, it's just every sentence is fuck, 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 fuck. Is it because of the actors that are saying them, they seem more realistic, or is it because, like, I think maybe you talked about, like, their age? What is it about, like, this movie that it just kind of flows? I'm like, well, please stop saying the F-bomb. When I hear Bill Moseley or Sherry Moon, it's just like, I'm so done with this dialogue. What is it?
Because they're college kids, and that's how college kids speak.
Yeah.
And, you notice, like, the older people, the in-town people, they weren't cursing all the time.
Right.
Well, the old racist guy was. But that came out of left field. But I think it's just more to the point of when he was writing it, he wrote the characters as he saw, like, college kids. Because
he was a college kid.
Exactly. Yeah. And, to the point, like, when you were saying with the rednecks, what they're like those people are the most relatable people in the fucking movie.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, where the guy's like, he's telling him, he's like, if you make this a problem with my son, that becomes a problem, and you're just like, yes, it is. This is
I
how
think that's a great thing to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because those are real people.
Right.
And you got, it's like the thing with like these outsiders came into our town. They're fucking everything up, spreading all that, and killed the guy that's the hermit in town that everybody knows.
Yeah, he didn't go fucking Ed Harley on him, but But I mean, they're close, man. They're gonna fucking get him.
So I've got as the cabin attack because Bert leads them on a long, and he's like at this point his skin's like falling off when he puts his hands on that tree. It just looks like hamburger. I'm like, oh, and he doesn't make any kind of like response to it. Like it's just coming off and it's no big deal. Kind of like the leg shaving thing. It all kind of makes sense now.
It's just rotting away.
Yeah.
So this is the point where everything's just like all the fruits of their labors come. They're what's a good way to say it? They're just fucked.
Yeah, here's when the kit comes into play, right?
Yeah,
right?
They want the kit.
Give it a kid.
I love it. He just holds it like it's
He's
like
holding it
a
like
little
this the whole
thing.
time. Like,
yeah.
They
kick open the door.
Yeah, he's just sitting in that chair with a gun, and he's just like, "Fuck you."
They have a plan.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. No.
Nobody's plans work out in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Nobody.
very comical how everybody dies in this thing too. It's like he falls he shoots him, the guy falls back, he shoots the other guy, that guy dies. And then he like comes through there, and then he gives him the Dawn of the Dead screwdriver through the ear.
It's very, yeah. And I think in the commentary, he actually talks about that. Like the blood pooling and everything. It's very Dawn of the Dead.
And that actor was very psyched to be getting killed with a screwdriver to the head there. He said that guy was like, man, the guy was so great. He was so happy to be in the movie. And when I told him, he's like, I'm going to kill you with a screwdriver in the ear, he was like, awesome.
That's the kind of actor you want.
Well, that's just it.
That's
Ryder
on their
Strong
way.
is taking off on it with
Takes off with the truck.
yeah, he does.
He goes back to town, right? And then meets up with Deputy Party Boy.
Deputy Party Boy. They're partying.
So Ryder Strong is the only person that we know is left because people haven't even seen Jeff since he took off.
Yeah.
No, he's fucking drunk in a cave somewhere.
Lucky him.
He's done nothing but drink beer for 2 days. That's a bad hangover.
Oh yeah. He's sleeping it off.
You want to have a skin eating disease or the worst hangover of your life.
So Ryder Strong is taken off, and then we get this amazing, beautiful, well done deer scene.
Just the legs through the front
Yeah,
windshield.
he hits this fucking deer head on. Everything you think he's gonna make it, and then nope, it's time to have the most ridiculous looking like Tommy Boy scene with these legs coming through the thing, and he's just kicking, shooting blood all over him just to cover him from head to toe.
It's very Evil Dead to me.
Oh, absolutely.
And then I think that's when he realizes like it's over. He's done. There's nothing he can do. He's infected.
Right, and we missed the whole point is that he actually finds Grimm in the cave.
Oh, yeah. He's Grimm. Yeah, he goes looking for Grimm, walks in the cave. He's in there cut in half, which is it's such a simple effect, and I think it's great because it's basically just Eli Roth, and he's buried halfway in the ground, and he's got the guts coming out. It's super cheap, super effective, but it looks so good on film. Like I just like stuff like that I love in movies, like just simple stuff. Like I'm sure like in the remake they probably put a CGI body with like green, he had like green pants on and like they just like ruined it. But like in this one, bury him halfway through the ground, guts coming out, he's got the ears, got the worms going in the ear like in Star Trek 2.
Yeah, and the cave they find him in is the cave that's in so many fucking movies. It's in Batman. It's in The Craft. It's in. I mean, I think I looked it up online, and there are like 30 to 40 just movies and then television shows. It's the Hollywood Cave. It's in Bronson County, I think, or something like that. Or maybe it's called the Bronson Cave, because I'm thinking of Charles Bronson, but it's not it.
When are you not thinking of Charles Bronson?
This is a
When I'm
cave,
having
Patty.
Damn.
Enough about Charlie Bronson. Deputy Party Boy.
He finds the party, and he's covered in blood. And he's like, "Damn, man, what happened to you?"
Yeah, and then he gets the call like, "Hey, we got these people. They're infected."
And here he is, just standing in front of him, just covered in like blood and guts and gore. And he's like, "Oh shit!" And he's like, "You gotta shoot him. You gotta kill him." He's like, "I can't."
He's like, I left my gun in the car.
I love. Yeah, he's so bumbling around, and he's drinking them with the underage party goers, which only two of them look underage.
He's like the cop. It looks like the world's worst party. These two like fucking hippie dudes are like playing like awful music.
Yeah,
And then
it's
there's
very
the
like
guy
the
with,
howling.
he's got like the harmonica.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, this is the point at the party where like the guy pulls out the guitar and you're like, oh, so I guess it's over. We're all going home now. Like you're gonna start playing guitar at this. So like, yeah, the party's winding down, and then the bloody guy shows up.
The bloody guy shows up, and they try to attack him, and it's great because you've got the guy who's with the guitar who tries to hit Ryder Strong, misses him, hits his best friend who's playing a harmonica. The harmonica somehow slides down sideways into his fucking throat, and he's just it's great. I love this scene so much.
Yeah, I don't know how the mechanics of a harmonica going down that way works.
Suspension of disbelief.
Goes down a long ways,
motherfucker.
turns around.
I mean, it's like something out of a fucking Looney Tunes cartoon.
I love it. Well, at this point, if you're this deep in the movie, you're along for the ride, as they say.
Fucking game on.
Yeah.
I think they just needed I think at this point in the movie, like there's been some comedy throughout it where you've been laughing, but I think at this point they were like, man, we got to have something to kind of break up. It's been real dark here for the last 20 minutes of the movie. We need something to kind of be like, hey, it's okay. We're going to make you laugh here real quick.
The whole last bit of this movie is just fucking hilarious because Paul Paul passes out, and then they're like, "Oh, I gotta give it to a doctor." And then you fucking find Jeff back at the cabin, and he comes in, man, and it's a great setup. It's beautifully set up because you think he's visibly upset, but he's just fucking happy because he lives and he made it, and he walks outside and gets shot immediately.
Yeah, he is more happy because he keeps saying the dialogue, but it's a great way to see that he's like, they're all dead, and I made it. You realize he's not like celebrating. He's celebrating that they're dead and he's alive.
Yeah.
He doesn't give a fuck about his friends.
Yeah.
Even his girlfriend.
No, he doesn't care about any of them. Why?
Everybody in this movie sucks.
Well, she
Because they
cheated
were
on him,
disposable.
so.
He doesn't know that. Maybe they had an open relationship, Ace. Jesus Christ.
Dr. Mambo
They
told
might
him.
have. I don't know. They,
Dr. Mambo.
they seem to be pretty cool with most things. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I had. Is like Jeff is more happy about being alive than his friends are being dead. And when the cops blow him away, I cheered.
I was just like, oh, God damn it.
He walks out of the cabin. He's like, I made it. And it's just a hail of bullets from the whole like 6 people police force. And he just goes down in a hail of bullets.
But
It's
even
beautiful.
then we get, to the end.
So this is when the whole end of the movie comes full circle.
Yes.
Or beginning of the movie comes full circle to the end.
Because the cops, again, with their lemonade, as Ace pointed out, it's been a long day killing people. Gonna need some
Killing
lemonade.
an unarmed man, I need some lemonade.
Well, we see these kids go down to the creek, as they call it, and they get this huge igloo like thing container of water, and then they make lemonade and just give it away to the cops.
That's got to be the worst lemonade too, because they just filled it up with like warm water, and then like put
What kind of fucking lemons are?
sugar
They
in
put
it.
a thing of ice in it.
Could you
Jesus.
imagine making lemonade with like Ohio River water? That's probably what this is like.
I told we watched the end of this earlier, and I said my dad worked for the health department with like wastewater stuff like that growing up when I was a kid, and he was like, "Don't drink any water. I don't care how isolated you think you are. Do not drink that water." And these kids are just like in fucking town. They're just like, well, filling it up. There's like some animal like taking a shit in that water like a mile up the creek. And
Just
they're
right
like,
upstream,
like,
man.
this is totally clean.
But-
spring water.
But they get their lemonade.
So Ryder Strong ends up in the hospital. He starts hallucinating. He starts thinking about like the bowling alley scene. He's thinking,
rabbit.
Yeah, everything's like really weird. He's like he's hallucinating, and like the colors are different. So where do we go from here? We're at the ending.
Hallucinating.
So-
I
and
love
the cops-
this.
the
I love the
cops
part
don't
when the
help
cop
him.
walks in.
Yeah.
I like that. I think the guy that plays like the sheriff of that, I think is great. Like he walks in and he has like the notepad and he's just like, start from the beginning. And you're like, because you imagine like, yeah, this is like, imagine trying to explain what happened in the last 2 days to somebody.
We set a homeless man on fire.
Like explaining like we accidentally set this guy on fire. My buddy wanted to go squirrel hunting and it set in this course of events that I'm going to explain to you.
Right. And here's the thing. He's questioning the character, and he has no idea because no one knows where this started.
Yeah.
It's come to your life because of this kid, but it's already out there.
Yeah. It's like every actor and every main character in this movie is like an unreliable narrator because they only know their version of events. And like really, because he thinks, Ryder Strong's character thinks, well, it all started, this crazy guy just showed up at the cabin. And then the other guy's like, oh God, I shot this guy. And then like he showed up over here, and these other people, like everybody has a different story about what's going on, and nobody actually really knows what's going on except the hermit who's dead.
Right. And the cops think it's the city kids.
Yeah,
It's
they
like,
brought it to our town.
No, it's not. Yeah, it's all connected. But when we finally see them, they're like, well, I'll take care of them. And then next thing you know, you see old Winston come back. And he's driving the car, and he's got a bandage on his head because, Ryder beat the crap out of him at the party.
Yeah.
And then
Lost
he's
his
like,
harmonica.
hey, check it out. It's the party guy. And he's in the back. He's like, where are we going? I was like, I'll take care of you, man. I got you.
Like,
and the
I
next
want
thing you
some
know,
water.
he's fucking dead in the fucking river. And that's when the kids pick up this big old thing of igloo. They fill up the water.
Oh yeah, and then they have a big jamboree.
They have a big jamboree, and the cops are drinking the lemonade that the kids just made with the tainted water. Everything's fucked. And then you see this huge truck just pull away. What's it say?
Spring water.
Spring water.
Spring water. You got to
Bring
get
it to
somewhere.
the people.
It's got to start somewhere.
Right.
I love that ending. And if I'm not mistaken, it's been a while since I've seen 2000 Maniacs, but I'm pretty sure that's how that movie ends. Is just with a big like. Just
Everybody's dancing, having
everybody's
a good time.
having a good old time, after all these horrific events happen.
And I think we have to mention the turnaround for the shopkeep. The shopkeep, he tried to bring it back.
Yeah, he tried to bring it back. Tried to
bring it back because
what an interesting joke.
Yeah,
in 2002,
old man Caldwell sitting outside with his grandkids, giving everybody lemonade because they're tired from murdering people, and goes back in, and now there is 3 black people in his store. And he's looking at them, and then he's like, "Oh, what's up?" And
he's like, "Let me go get that gun."
Yeah,
he looks like, "Oh, here we go," because at the beginning of the movie, we know what he said, and now we're like, "Oh God!" Now he's terrified of the black people.
Yeah,
no, they're his friends.
Yeah, he's fine-tuned the gun for him.
Yeah, he fine-tuned the gun for him and says the N-word,
and they're totally okay with
and
him
they're
saying
okay
this.
with it, and it's like, wow, that was a long time to set up that one joke. That would be like me telling a joke at the beginning of this, and then be like, "That's the joke."
It's like it was a 90-minute racist joke.
Yeah, thanks, Uncle Dave. Go back to the cemetery. That shit is not okay anymore.
No, it's not,
and it was never okay. It's interesting to see that, and it's still like we're trying to progress, but even in 2002, thought this was funny.
Yeah, it's like that bad thing where you're just like, well, it's a product of its time, like.
Yeah.
But even then, like, I don't even think. I think back then it's one of those things where they're just writing, and he's like, oh, this would be so funny later on.
But it's so shocking. I think when it
it's
happens,
just
you're like,
shocking.
oh wow, wasn't expecting that at all.
And that was also when they were trying to get funding for this movie. A lot of people were just like, dude, you got to take that out. And he was like, no, it's staying in. Yeah. he was real adamant about that being in there.
And let's talk about the reception of this film and ended that way, because this movie, as you said earlier, was a huge moneymaker, but no one wanted this script. They all wanted a Scream movie. They all, can you write it more like Scream? And even before that, he said he couldn't get interest for the film because everyone wanted a Scream-like movie.
Yeah.
When Scream dropped, he got more interest, and they were still like, can you make it a little bit more like Scream, though?
Yeah. And that was this whole thing, is like, originally they wrote this in like 95, and like he was just like, everybody was like, horror's dead, we're not going to release anything like that. Then, yeah, like you said, Scream, and then, I mean, really, it's crazy he even got it made in 2002, because there really weren't any other movies coming out in 2002, like mainstream movies that were this. And this movie made worldwide almost $31 million.
That's huge.
Yeah,
it's
huge. It cost next to nothing.
He was part of this new renaissance of horror film group, and they're called the SPLAT-PACK.
Yeah.
A coin turned by the guy who I think it was Alan Jones, I think his name is. I need to find his real name, but he worked for a film magazine called Total Film, and in that group of the list that this guy made was Alexandra Aja, Darren Bousman, if you don't know him, he did like the Saw sequels. He also did like Repo the Genetic Opera. Adam Green, of course. Neil Marshall, who did like Dog Soldiers and The Descent.
Oh yeah.
And he also just recently did the Hellboy reboot.
Yeah.
Let's see, Greg McLean, who did Wolf Creek. Robert Rodriguez, James Wan, Lee Winnell, who wrote most of James Wan's earlier films, and he directed, by the way, I think, which is a better version of the Venom idea, is he did Upgrade.
Oh,
like if Venom was that, if that was movie was about Venom, it'd been perfect. Let's see, and of course Rob Zombie. They were known as the SPLAT-PACK.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they were starting to make horror films. They're like, oh, okay, now it's acceptable.
Which it kind of like this movie like set course for that. Like all those started because you had like then he did his follow up to this Hostel, and then you had like with like Saw, like I was like torture porn became a word in the ethos, like
Between
people were
Saw
throwing
and
around
Hostel,
like
you had-
Saw.
yeah.
I mean, God, they're still making Saw movies.
French films were making like Frontiers. All this stuff was starting to come out. It was like really, really
Yeah.
brutally and hardcore because they were harkening back to the 70s genre.
Yeah, and I love that. I think like reading Quentin Tarantino's book, he was talking about how the 70s were like this weird time where like studios were just letting like directors like do whatever you want, make this movie, and like everything in the 70s was so brutal and like depressing to watch.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's why when you get to the 80s, everything's just like popcorn and stuff like that.
Joe Bob Briggs wrote a book in the late, I want to say mid 90s, and he's got a whole section about like these guys who came out of nowhere, like Martin Scorsese with Taxi Driver, all these like grindhouse guys who are actually starting to get more like they were able to sell their movies to mainstream audiences because of like The Exorcist.
Yeah. And then you get Eli Roth, who was a teenager going to watch all these movies in theaters. He saw Alien and said he threw up in the theater. Yeah. Because it like made him so like anxious, I guess. And like he just was like going like every weekend. I remember
Was this before or after he watched Mother's Day?
I think this is before Mother's Day.
Alien was the first horror film that Eli Roth had ever seen. And I'm glad we're talking about him now because we can kind of cap this episode going back to him and the response to the film. Is that he met Tarantino at the Undead premiere, which is the Spearing film. The brothers did that Australian movie called The Undead.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And that's where he met Quentin Tarantino, actually, at that thing. And he had talked to him about Cabin Fever. And he was like, oh, yeah, sure, I'll see it. And he had no idea that actually he was going to go and see it. Same with Peter Jackson. I think one of you all had a story about that, right?
Yeah, Peter Jackson, when he was making Lord of the Rings, was like showing, like, he was like, oh my God, you have to watch this movie. He was like on set of Lord of the Rings, like making everybody watch it.
Yeah, he stopped production.
During their downtime, they're like, we'll film the fucking volcano shit tomorrow. Come over here, guys.
Yeah.
Look at this shit, Aragorn.
Peter Jackson in 02 with Lord of the Rings, like this guy's like printing money back there.
Dude, could you imagine Peter Jackson and fucking Ian McKellen are sitting there just watching this movie? Fucking Sean Astin comes in, it's like, what do you? Oh my God!
I think that's why, because I think most of those people had been in some sort of exploitation movie before. And they all can appreciate it. I think that's what he saw, much like the whole James Cameron going like, we have to go see Evil Dead 2 to Bill Paxton.
Yeah.
Picked him up and said,
Ian
we're going to go
McKellen.
see Evil Dead 2. So you've got this whole other generation. Peter Jackson's going like, look at this guy. He's making movies that I loved, and I did Dead Alive and all Meet the Feebles and all these exploitation movies when I was a kid. He gets it. Let's go check it out. And and he actually gave some quotes as well, kind of like Stephen King did with Evil Dead.
Yeah.
So yeah, he had some good connections, but he also, I mean, this movie pays off.
Oh, yeah.
It does.
There was a bidding war during was it Toronto Film Festival? I cannot remember.
I think it's Toronto, yeah.
Yeah, and during the premiere, because that was like the midnight movie on the last night, and usually, well, at that time, things have changed so much now. You have Comic-Cons and all these people who actually give a shit about these kind of film festivals and things. But this movie had a line around the block, and it's usually the last movie that it's kind of like,
Yeah.
and people were waiting to see this movie.
I think a lot of word, like he was saying earlier, like a lot of word of mouth came out because, like,
Definitely afterwards.
I don't think I know anybody that really went to the theater and saw it. I know working in the video store, like, you know, it came in and like we all got him early. We got him like 2 weeks early. One of my employees took it home first, and he's like, "Holy shit, you got to watch this!" And I'm like, "All right, let's watch it." Holy shit, you got to watch this. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, everybody's hyped about it, and then we're like, "Holy shit, you got to watch this!"
It was a
shoving it
refreshing
down
film.
people's faces.
Yeah, it is, because like at the time, like I was a freshman in college. Like most of the horror movies I remember going to see in the theater were like Halloween Resurrection. Like that was, I went like stuff like that. That may have been 03, but it was still like all the time. Like everything was like horror movies were just like, you're gonna get stabbed. It's gonna cut away.
They were
There's
trying
no violence.
to get the Scream vibe again.
Like it was all that, and you're like, oh my God, this woman has no lips. like that's, and I was like, I'm in. Like I want this.
Yeah, the good thing that Scream did, which was bring back, you know, like some sort of like studio interest in horror films again, it started to muddle it down because people wanted to keep making it formulaic. And then you have people like Rob Zombie, who was able to do House of a Thousand Corpses. Yeah. And you have Stan Winston, who did like Wrong Turn. And then you have this movie, these kind of movies all in a row. And that's what I said, like the whole SPLAT-PACK guys. You have Alexander Aja did High Tension. And, you know, those movies all came out together and it was great. Frontiers, you know, then you had not too long after that, it was like Martyrs and then May. Yeah. You had some great films.
Well, and they were, you know, going back to saying something's a product of the time, these movies actually really benefited from the time and kind of this. I feel like Cabin Fever really ushered in the torture porn, or just like where you're seeing people suffer greatly, because what was happening at the time, like we had just had 9/11. Yeah. We're at war. We're actually torturing people, not to get political, but, and so people needed more violence, something more visceral to get a reaction, and that's where we got all of these movies. But that's a different episode. We could.
Oh no, that's a totally good point, because like you could, like if you were only having Scream movies on, like that were coming out, like horror type movies, like you could just like turn on CNN back then and just see like way more horrific stuff than you could on like any movies. They're like, we got to amp it up now. Like, the actual, it's like the Megadeth video or whatever. It's like, this is the news,
right? Yeah, I mean, you've got Last House on the Left. By the way, we didn't even mention David Hess's song in this movie.
Yeah,
but I wanted to connect these two to make point to talk about him. Is that you had that movie coming in at the end towards of the Vietnam era.
Yeah.
So David Hess has a fantastic song from Last House on the Left in this movie.
Yeah. And that's that's a perfect example of that. That's Vietnam and like that whole era of like it was the same thing. Yeah, the same thing happened in Vietnam where like they're like, I'm turning on the movies and it's like, oh, let's dance the Charleston down the thing here. And they're like, I don't want to watch this shit. Like, there's real stuff going on in the world. And yeah, it's the perfect example.
Serena Vincent actually did her audition for Cabin Fever on 9/11 because she didn't get the email that please don't do this today because the shit's happening. She still came in and they were like,
didn't get the email. Did she turn on the fucking radio or the TV?
But she still, because when it comes to getting a job, when you were nobody, you did one movie, or maybe a couple of movies, but she needed this job. So she did not get the memo. She showed up and they were like, all right, let's do it. Fuck it. On 9/11.
I had football practice on 9/11, so I completely get what happened there.
Wow.
It's a true story.
Totally the same.
It's totally the same.
Oh, man.
Dave, do you have a question for us?
Yeah.
Oh,
so we're going to wrap this up. I want to know what would be in your kit. Like, if you told somebody to go get a kit, what would be in it?
Fuck me. I thought I had this covered. Yeah. I thought I knew the Dave question. I have an idea what you're going to ask me.
What's the grossest part of Eli Roth?
You're a piece of garbage.
What would you put in the kit? What would be in your kit? One thing you would absolutely have to have in your kit.
For a virus.
No, anything. Like if you were like, Katie, go get the kit. What would be in that kit?
Oh man, that's Ace first. That's not fair.
Ace, what would be in your kit?
You know what? Fuck it. VCR.
That's a big kit. It's going to be hard to carry around. Ace.
I don't know, for like, the kit. It's not even just the specific.
Yeah, not as specific. You're just like, go get the kit.
The kit.
You're such a prick.
It'd have to be like cash and like a passport.
Cash and a passport. All right. Katie, you can answer too.
Cyanide tablets. Because I've always said in like a very stressful kind of end of the world situation, I'm out. I'm not going to handle this. Just cyanide.
Yeah, just give up. Just whatever.
Yeah, I'm going to die.
Okay.
She's going to be watching the VCR. Ace is going to Puerto Rico. Katie's going to off herself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least I'll have a copy of Evil Dead with me.
Yeah. You didn't say it was in the kit. Only the VCR.
I know. I think it was like, what am I going to watch? Nothing. My hand.
So now you just got a VCR. Congratulations, Steve.
God damn it. Let's get out of here, guys. Thank you all for tuning in to our Cabin Fever episode.
Oh, and if you want to know what would be in my kit, I'll never tell. Anyways, thanks for tuning into us. You can find us on Anchor FM, Breaker, Google Podcast, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Castbox, Verbal.com, Facebook,
iHeartRadio now.
iHeartRadio, YouTube, obviously, wherever you're watching or listening to us now. So like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.